All right, boys and girls, welcome to your math lesson for today. It is topic 14, lesson 8, and we are on page 585. That is 585. If you need to pause to go get your Envisions Volume 2 workbook, please go ahead and do so. Okay, so you should be on your solve and share on the front. So like our lessons, how we've been having to change them up a little bit, today is going to be one of those lessons. If we were in class together, we would be able to use the blocks, but unfortunately, since we're not, you may just have to watch Miss Collier do this section, or we will find another way to do it. So for this solve and share, it wants us to use green cubes to build two different rectangular prisms. So you are just going to have to watch Miss Collier do this with the blocks on the screen. So if you don't have the blocks at home, that's okay, just watch me. So it says use green cubes to build two different rectangular prisms. Rectangular prisms. So if we remember, a rectangular prism has 8 vertices and 6 faces. So I'm going to actually I'll be using these cubes. Okay, so when I look at this one cube, I can see that I know a cube has 6 faces. So if we're just going to stack right on top of each other. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces. So these two blocks stacked together would make up one of the rectangular prisms we need to build. So imagine that these two blocks were put together to make a rectangular prism. So it wants us to make one more. Let's see what we can make. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So since we're using all different cubes to make these rectangular prisms, it's not exactly perfect, but that's okay, because a rectangular prism has 6 faces and 8 vertices. So if this was all put together, it would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices and 6 faces. So imagine if you were playing with blocks, if you were stacking up blocks, if you stacked 2 cube blocks on top of each other and then did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cube blocks and put them all on top of each other, that would make a model of a rectangular prism. So how many cubes did I use in all? So I just counted 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to add these two, 11, 12. So I used 12 cubes in all. Sorry guys, my finger is so broken, so the writing's not so pretty. I used 12 cubes in all. So you didn't have to write in this section since you don't have the blocks at home. You could just watch Miss Collier do it. That's okay. Alright, boys and girls, if you were to flip your workbook page to page 586, that's 586, you will see a visual learning at the very top of the page. It's highlighted in green. So we're going to watch this video and it's going to show us how to do our next section of the lesson.
You can combine 3D shapes to make bigger 3D shapes. What are these shapes? These are cubes. What bigger 3D shapes can you make by putting these cubes together? You can build a rectangular prism from cubes. What other 3D shape can you build from cubes?
So what other shape can we build from 3D cubes?
What shape was made here?
Select your answer.
All right, boys and girls, is this a picture of a cube or a pyramid? So a cube has 6 faces and 8 vertices. So is this a picture of a cube or a pyramid? A cube.
You can make a big cube from smaller cubes. Can an even bigger cube be made with more small cubes? Explain.
So what do you think, boys and girls? Do you think an even bigger cube can be made with more small cubes?
Yes, you can make a bigger cube by adding more small cubes. You can also use 3D shapes to make objects that you know. What are the names of these 3D shapes that will be used to make an object? There is a cube, a cone, and a cylinder. What can you make with these?
All right, let's try it, boys and girls. What do you think we can make with a cube, a cone, and a cylinder? Let's see, what could we make? I'll take my cylinder. I'll take my cone here. And then I'll take my cube. Wow, that looks really good. You know what it kind of looks like? A rocket ship.
How were the shapes combined to make this object? They were stacked on top of each other. What shape did they make when they were combined?
So what shape did they make?
A cube, a cylinder, and a cone make a rocket.
Now you know how to put 3D shapes together to make other 3D shapes.
All right, boys and girls, now we're going to be doing the guided practice. On the same page, it's still 586, so 586. You should be seeing guided practice at the top. So this one says to circle the 3D shapes that could be put together to make the object. So the object is to the left. So these are the objects they are talking about, this one and this one. So it wants us to circle which shapes out of these could make this object. Well, let's look at this object. We see it has one vertex at the top, and it looks like a cone, and then this shape, what shape does this look like? Well, if we look over here, it already did it for us. So we are going to circle the cylinder because we can see that a cylinder was used here. And then there is a cone on top. So we are going to circle the cone and the cylinder. Okay, for number 2 down here, so this is our object right here. Our object is green and blue, but don't let that fool you. Really look at the object. What objects were used to put this together? Let's look at this beginning part. We can see that where the colors change, you can see the beginning and end of a shape. So this green shape right here, that looks like a what? A cube. So I'm going to circle the cube. And then what does the rest of this model look like? What object out of these over here would that have been? A rectangular prism. So you should have circled a cube and a rectangular prism. Those were the 2 shapes put together to make that object. Alright, on our next workbook page, page 587, that's 587. Now is the time to do the independent practice, and as always, that means that you answer it by yourself, but Mrs. Collier is still going to walk you through it. So independent practice on page 587, we are doing what we just did in our last guided practice where we circled the objects, we circled the shapes that could make the object. So let's look at our objects. I have one over here. In number 3. So we see a circle, and then we see a very long shape that is here. Which 2 shapes were put together to make this object? I'm going to circle the shapes it used to make this object. Same for number 4. Look at this object. Which objects were used to make this shape? So I can see the beginning of a cone, and then on the bottom I see another shape attached to it. So you should circle the 2 shapes it takes to make this picture. For number 5, we're going to do the same thing. Look at this object, and which shapes were put together to make this object? Which 2 shapes? For number 6, it says John wants to combine 6 green cubes to make a bigger cube. Can John do this? Explain and use cubes to help. So Mrs. Collier is going to help you do this part. I'm going to show you what it would look like if we were to combine these 6 green cubes together. So this problem might be a little bit tricky since we don't have cubes and we're not in person, but I'm going to do my best to show you. So I'm going to take these 6 green cubes. So imagine we're playing with blocks. So if I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I took those 6 blocks and I built them together, but I don't have 2 more blocks to fill in the front of the cube. So it's not a complete cube. So if John wants to combine 6 green cubes to make a bigger cube, can he do this? So if I put those 6 cubes together, and I am still missing 2 cubes, could I do that and make a bigger cube? Yes or no? It just wants you to write yes or no in one of these areas over here, and then tell me why he cannot make a bigger cube. So Mrs. Collier just showed if you take those 6 blocks and stack them together, we are missing at least 2 cubes to fill it in. For our last workbook page, page 588, that's 588. Number 7 says Ralph made this shape below with 3D shapes. What 3D shapes did Ralph use? So it wants us to tell what 3D shapes did Ralph use to make this below. So just write the name of the shapes below. Number 8 says Kirsten has 12 ice cubes. She wants to combine the ice cubes to make an ice sculpture. What 3D shape could Kirsten make with the ice cubes? So what shape could she make with these 3 ice cubes? So if she were to stack all the ice cubes together or stack them horizontally next to each other, what shape could she make? So let me show you an example. So if I had the ice cubes, could she stack them this way? That's a possibility. Or she could stack the ice cubes this way. So if she were to do that, what 3D shape does that make? Number 9, it says Ellen uses 2 of the same shape to build a bigger 3D shape. Her new figure has 2 flat surfaces and 0 vertices. What 2 shapes did Ellen use? And what bigger shape did Ellen build? So think of what 3D shape has 2 flat surfaces and 0 vertices. If you need to look back on your lessons, you might need to. So what 3D shape has 2 flat surfaces and 0 vertices? So what 2 shapes did she use? And those 2 shapes together, what shape did they make is what they want to know on the second line. And for our last one, number 10, it says which object could be used or could be made with a cone and a cylinder. So if I were to put the cone and the cylinder together, which of these shapes could I make? A cone and a cylinder together. Then it wants you to fill in the answer choice.